Let's come back to studio and have a discussion in terms of, we'll start with politics and then we'll get into the kicker, which is the Kenya Information and Communication Act 411. We'll talk about that because the Member of Parliament who's pushing for amendments to separate telecommunication services from money lending services is with us here. We'll be speaking to him on that and find out why he's pushing for that and what is in it for the country. Honorable Elisha Odhiambo, Game Member of Parliament, is here with us on my right. Thank you so much for making time. Honorable David Sankok, nominated Member of Parliament, is also here with us on my left. Thank you so much for making time.
Good morning, Trevor.
Morning. And Reginald Katzutu, Capital Economist. Thank you so much for making time.
Thank you.
So let's start off with the dailies. We see a lot of issues going on here. Raila's options if things fall apart in the aftermath of last weekend's outburst. But also at the same time, Honorable Elisha, and I'll start with you, Uasin Gishu County decided to abstain from voting on the BBI. Does that have any impact? Were you surprised that they decided to abstain?
I think logically speaking, I mean, all Kenyans have a right to decide on their fate, on their future. And that's what democracy is all about. I think what is important is that the number of counties that passed BBI are much more than required. So even if we were to go for a test and do a legal test, and realize that a few are not in compliance, the BBI would still qualify and the bill would go through and sail through for the referendum.
Okay.
Yes.
Honorable Sankok, what are your thoughts on that?
You know, at the end of the day, Trevor, the bill is in the National Assembly and the Senate. So what was the need of them either going no or yes? Some of us have decided that because this is something that will touch on the lives of many Kenyans, let them, the people decide, just like what Matiba used to say, the late Matiba. Yeah. So let the people decide. Okay. So they just decided that because it will not have any consequences, let's move forward. And I think I support them.
Katzutu, what would be the impact of a referendum at this time when you're trying to recover from COVID-19? The economic impact, would that be devastating to the country? Is this even something we should be considering now?
I think the country is caught between a rock and a hard place. And why do I say that? Kenya is a political problem that needs to be fixed before we even think of fixing any economic problem. We have what we call short-termism in the politics in Kenya. The two honorable members here know that in 4 years they have to go for elections. So for any human being, your policy will be driven by, I need to put policies that make sure I am re-elected after the 4 years. Those are short-term policies to grow a country. A president comes in, President Uhuru Kenyatta came in. His first 4 years, he knew that he needs to win the re-election. He had to look for a pet project, which was the SGR, so that he can point and say, look at what I have done. Yeah. And our members of parliament also have pet projects. You'll realize as you're getting to next year, you'll see schools being done, toilets being done in the constituency. Those are short-term policies just to make sure people are re-elected. So if we do not cure short-termism in our politics, then there's nothing else we can talk in terms of economy. So unfortunately, as much as it might cost us a bit, we don't know the cost of this referendum. Hopefully it won't be inflated by corruption. But I think it is a necessary step towards fixing the long-term economic problem that we have in this country, where we fix the politics first. Once we fix the politics and we move from short-termism politics to long-term, we'll start seeing long-term economic policies, which will benefit now the general populace and start lifting people out of poverty.
All right. Honorable Elisha, is this just a move, or is the BBI a move for self-preservation? Because even the Linda Katiba movement is calling it a coup on the Constitution of Kenya 2010.
I think, like my brother has mentioned, each and every president would like to leave a legacy. I think the president reflecting back, because we need to do a self-introspection as a country. And you realize that indeed a number of things have gone wrong. Among them, violence at the time of election. This has been repeated over the years. Yeah. Over the last 10 elections, there's still been violence. And I think the worst was the one of 2017. And I think the president and his partner, the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, reflected back and looked at the past and decided that they must use the past to heal the future. And I think it's a decisive moment for the country. It's useful that our youths would have a place in our story. It's useful that our people who are challenged would have a place in our story. It's useful that women would have a place in our story. And this, for me, is a conversation that is around BBI. What is the place of our youth in the BBI?
Yeah.
What's the place of women in the BBI? What's the place of my brothers who are a little bit challenged in the BBI? That, for me, is more important. And to make sure that we can cure the past vices of this country,
Yeah.
where when you go to look for a job, the interviewer looks at your name, and when he realizes you're not Karaoke or Wafula, and you're Sankok, you're not given the job, even if you have the competence and the competencies that that job requires.
Yeah.
So for me, I see a future, and that the future lies in BBI. It does not matter who takes over after BBI. What matters that we'll have our counties have 35% revenue going to our countries, and we'll have the counties developing at the same pace. It will be just based on the leadership in those specific counties.
Okay.
Yeah.
Honorable Sakonk, do you agree? Is this the silver bullet we've been waiting for?
Trevor, I will have a very different approach, because if I use surgical precision, I will tell you without fear of contradiction that Kenyans' violence have been having a single denominator. And let us just be true to ourselves. BBI, yes, we may cure some, but we know what happened in the year 2002 when we had a transition and a change of regime. We had very peaceful election. We did not have any problem. Uhuru Kenyatta was then a presidential contestant, and he accepted defeat gracefully, and that is why we did not have any violence. But there have been a single person who have been rejecting any outcome of the election.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that when his name missed in 2002, Kenya was very lucky. We did not have any problem. In 2007, you know who rejected the outcome of the election. In 2013, you know who rejected the outcome of the election. In 2017, you know who rejected the outcome of the election. You know, in 2008, whose hand brought Kenyans together after greetings, after the purported handshake.
Yeah.
You know also in 2018, whose hands brought the purported peace, simply because, you know, we had resist, NRM, swearing in, and so on. So if it is my hand that will hold Kenya together or Kenya apart, then you know that you are the single denominator of violence. And I think the best approach that we'll have used, we will have said, okay, we will use BBI to cure, but in BBI, let us have the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, with a lot of respect, accept that if he did not come together with Kibaki, this country will have burned into flame. If he did not come together with Uhuru Kenyatta, we were going to the dogs as a country. So the single denominator of violence have been Raila Odinga. So let us have, you will have had a soul searching and say, what have been the problem? Is it because I've been defeated by, is it because I reject the outcome of the election, or is it because the election have been stolen from me? And then use BBI to cure the electoral process. Now the BBI is a bit silent on the issues of the electoral process.
Okay. Is that true, Honorable Elisha?
I don't agree with Sankok. I mean, let's talk about issues, not individuals.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the elections in Matungu, where Chesa was arrested, did you see an ODM person arrested? If you look at Kabushai, who are the perpetrators of the violence? If you look at Nakuru, who are the perpetrators? Let us be able, he has said, like a surgeon, let us look critically from a conceptual view what ails Kenya. That would be helpful. Because, I mean, talk about individual would not help. I mean, the country, you cannot write the history of Kenya without talking about the Prime Minister, Raila Odinga. The man was jailed for many years. Why? Because he wanted democratic space.
Yeah.
Myself and Sankok may have been in school then. Moi would not allow you to discuss the president then. There are people monitoring you in bus. We enjoy this space. Why? Because there are people like Raila Molodinga who fought. There are people like Muliro who fought. There are people like Paul Muite who fought. There are people like James Bob Aglorengo who fought and went through a difficult process for a greater good.
But he was talking about the BBI addressing the electoral process.
I think
the winner takes it all.
The point he missed is that he is associating violence with Raila Odinga, which is not true.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I have mentioned the instances in which he was not in the ballot box and who are very peaceful. In any case, we are not discussing personality. We are just discussing the issue of BBI. What ail our electoral process. And there is this issue of the winner take it all, thinking that it will cure the issue of electoral process. And I don't think it will cure, according to me. Because if we have a competition, there must be a winner and a loser. And the loser accept defeat. Because there was a winner and a loser in 2002. And there was a change of regime. And there was transition. And in fact, who was defeated was the power to be. The deep state and the system were the ones that were defeated. But because President Uhuru Kenyatta was a gentleman enough to accept that I have been defeated in a fair democratic process, and in any democratic process there must be a winner and a loser, and I'm a loser in this particular time. I will go and reorganize myself and again table my manifesto, and if Kenyans elect me, I will accept the win, but now I'm accepting defeat. That is what I'm just saying. If also in BBI we will have stated that every loser should accept, because even if we say that we have this issue of having the winner should not take everything in BBI, do you think everybody will win? We'll have 10 presidential candidates. Will they all then fit in the 5 position? It is not. It is impossible. We will have 5 positions, and we have 42 tribes. You will include 5 tribes and exclude 37. That is exclusivity. It is not inclusivity. So the issue of the winner take it all, I think it should have been coiled in a more manner in which it will bring inclusivity and make sure that our country should not, other communities should not feel that they have been left out. And Trevor, just give me 1 minute. I think the best way we will have said in this one is not the issue of this big position for the big boys. We will have said, if the president is, for instance, a Kikuyu in this matter, and the deputy president is a Kalenjin, all the cabinet secretaries should come from any other tribe. If the cabinet secretaries come from specific tribes, then the other PSs and others should come from different tribes. I think we will have cured this issue of tribal conflict every now and then, because I know even if I will not be, my community will not be, or my tribe will not be the president, then I'll have a slot in the cabinet, which is also the executive management of the government. And then I think we'll have cured all these issues.
Reginald, is it viable, these options that we're giving, say like 35% to counties in a country that is struggling right now even with the debt? Is this economically viable? I'm trying to, as much as possible, to keep you away from the politics, because I know you're an economist, and we'll get into that conversation for a bit. But is it viable to have 35%?
It is viable. And as I mentioned earlier, you can hear the discussion between the two gentlemen. We have a political problem that we need to fix, whether it's personality, tribal, whatever. And we need to move to a place where we institutionalize economic policies. And not make them dependent on who is in power. So that this thing of when my tribe becomes president, when you start hearing statements of when my tribe becomes president, just know it is tribal or personal based and not institutionalized. So where we separate the institutional policies on the economy and any other area of the country from the person who's running the country, that way you don't have. Again, going back to the issue of short-termism, if President Uhuru leaves power next year, which he will leave power, everything is done in the 8 years is going to go into the garbage bin, because the next person is going to come, he has his own manifesto, own things that he was going to do. How do we account for the 8 years? How do we account for the 7-8 trillion that Ruto and Uhuru have borrowed through all those years, they all go down the drain. And if we don't institutionalize policy, especially economic policy, then we have this problem of politics. 35% to counties, for me, is viable in the right framework. Why do I say so? The problem we have in the country right now is because everything revolves around Nairobi. Look at our budget. If you look at our budget, go through our budget, you realize this is a budget for big business, a budget for Nairobi. What does that do? It kills employment in the rural areas, or kills employment in the counties. So people from Elisha's county all troop to Nairobi to look for jobs, because that's the only place where jobs are. So if we are not creating jobs where people stay, you'll end up creating a Nairobi expressway. You end up trying to keep matatus out of whatever. You end up doing affordable housing in Nairobi. Why? Because you're curing a symptom. What is the symptom? The symptom is rural unemployment, which has increased urban migration, and everyone is moving to Nairobi. Urbanization is good, but let urbanization happen in Kakamega. Let urbanization happen in Gem. Let there be an urban center in Gem, where people in the rural Gem move to the urban center in Gem, but not where everyone in every place, Nyeri, Meru, Coast, is all trooping to Nairobi to look for jobs. Then you create a crisis, which now becomes a capital-intensive crisis. You are borrowing to build houses, you are building roads which are not necessary. Yeah. You are having water problems. Why? Because everyone is here now. You're trying to do tunnels from Murang'a to bring water to Nairobi. But if you're creating jobs in Murang'a, the youth in Murang'a will grow up knowing that I don't have to go to Nairobi for work. I'm going to go to school here, I'm going to get educated, and there will be enough jobs for me. So the element of moving money to counties is a good idea. But then it goes now to the second element. How is it managed when it gets to the county level? Because if you increase it, and I've said it on this show, that I think Kenya ran into devolution for political expediency, and not for economic expediency. Because majority of this money that is going to counties is not going for development. Is going to pay salaries. So what we devolved is the payroll. Yeah. So I said instead of paying health workers from Nairobi, you pay health workers from where you are paying them. That is not development. That is just devolving a payroll. So until even that 35%, when it starts going to counties, and county governments themselves say, okay, this is the county, this is what we want to do, this is how we'll create jobs. And I like the counties who are coming together, forming regional blocks, because there are some counties which are economically not viable by themselves. But like if the Western Bloc has come together and they are now trading amongst each other, a business knows that I can set up in Kisumu, I can sort out the region. They have a bigger catchment of clientele to do that. Okay. They start employing more people going forward. So that 35% for me makes sense, but there's still more work that needs to be done. Okay. But the point is, we need to start somewhere. Okay. Yeah.
Honorable Elisha, are you concerned about these political formations that we're now seeing? There's a bit of succession politics going on. There's the Tanga team with the DP President Ruto. There's one other team, Kalonzo and Mudavadi on one other side, who used to be part of NASA, now they're not. Are you concerned about that?
I mean, from where I sit, there'll be many formations before the elections. I mean, you've seen the formation of these lazy politicians. You know, people who cannot wake up very early. The Kalonzo, Mudavadi, Wetangula. Even when there was a time to judge men from women, they were not in Uhuru Park for swearing in of Raila. They are lazy politicians who are used to being appointed. And we have, they have been joined, unlucky for him, by Gideon Moi, who is also a part of a lazy politician. You can't have in your own county BBI is not passed. Then you have these abrasive and abrasive politicians like Ruto, who is a brother of Sankok. He's also pushing his team Tanga. He has some gravitas. But I must say that this country does not lack good leadership. There are many young Kenyans who are leaders in their own right, who are innovators. These are the Kenyans who can, in the future, could form another alliance to replace the group of lazy politicians. You know for sure that the only formidable politicians in this country today is Raila Amolo Odinga and the brother of Sankok, this gentleman from Sugoi. I mean, there's nobody, That's the truth. Yeah.
Is that your reading as well, Honorable Sankok?
No, Trevor.
Yeah.
He is my brother, just as Raila is my brother. And I have seen in the papers that he have been taken ill. And as a good citizen of this country, we wish him quick recovery. Of course, we cannot discuss medical information here as a medic. Yeah. Those are private and confidential. I don't know why it is in the media. And we wish him a quick recovery. I hear that he's in isolation, so we may not be able to visit him. Otherwise, I will have been the first to go and visit him. But I'll visit him through Jesus Christ, because I'll pray for him, for his quick recovery, because he's our worthy opponent. And we really need him in 2022, so that when we win, we will celebrate big. Because when we win against a bigger force, then you will celebrate bigger. Not, of course, what my people, my good friend is saying, the people who are waiting for endorsement and so on. You know, those who know if you win against them, it's like wearing an helmet and going to fight a rat. You know, you will not actually celebrate much. If you go and fight a lion with an helmet, even if you don't win, at least you will have tried. So, but coming to my friend here, I really totally agree with you on what you have said on urbanization, that we should allocate our resources not according to population, but according to the landmass. We should develop every part of our country, because roads, all infrastructure, hospitals, everything is built on land, not on people. And the moment we develop any part of this country, we'll offload the higher population that is causing distress on our social amenities in our urban centers. We'll, let me give you an example of Qatar. It's a tiny desert peninsula, but because of development, 35,000 Kenyans have immigrated, and they are immigrant workers in that desert peninsula because of infrastructure. So if you develop every part, so I agree with him that we need to develop every part, but I don't agree with him when he says that every politician, when there is an election or change of regime, everything that have been done down to the drain. That the 8 years or the 10 years of Uhuru Kenyatta, we cannot account. I'm telling you, even if somebody comes, I'm assuring him that SGR will not go down to the drain. The free maternity will not go down to the drain. The last mile connectivity will not go down to the drain. The 7,000 new tarmac we have built as Jubilee will not go down to the drain. What will happen is that anybody who will come will build on our already solid foundation that Jubilee had put in place. And that is will happen when we have a change of regime. Moi did his part. Kibaki built on what Moi left, and then Uhuru built on what Moi have left, and Kibaki have left. And I can assure you, Trevor, what we have done as Jubilee, especially the 5 years, faster, I think is marvelous, and Kenyans will accept. True. We did marvel. In fact, it was like miracles.
True. Revelation. Do you agree? Did you see any miracles?
I'm distressed as a Kenyan citizen. Kibaki left this country when we were just about 1 trillion loan. Now we are getting to about 8, 9. They want to increase it actually. 7. They want to increase it to 14, so that they can still borrow more. Now, more importantly, when Uhuru Ruto, the two brothers took over, you remember they promised our children laptops. The kids that were promised are in class 8. They have never seen nothing yet. What I've seen is the traction of these two good Kenyans to want to go to China to do roads. What is attracting us to get Kenyan loans? Is that something that we don't know? So it's important to say, yes, they have tried to do something on infrastructure, but they must remember their promises to the people of Kenya. They are leaving this country more debt-ridden than before. In fact, the next president of the Republic of Kenya is going to have a problem. I mean, unless he has a caucus of economic strategies that will create stimulus so that the country can recover as fast, they will pay debt for 5 years. And this is my orientation. Is it possible that we increase the debt burden of individual Kenyans, or there are better innovative ways of collecting money and pay debt?
Okay. Kazutu, what do you make of this debt issue that we're talking about now?
Okay. Just to explain to the honorable member, when I say it goes down the drain, if the next person who comes in does not believe SGR was a good investment, he will leave SGR where it is. Yeah, wherever it is stopped in Havasha or whatever, it will be left there. What was dreamt of, whatever it was supposed to be dreamt of, will die. It will not continue going. I'll give you an example. Konza City, which was one of Kibaki's dreams. It has died. It's there. But every year, there's a budgetary allocation of close to 1 billion, 2 billion that goes to Konza City. I think, to be honest and fair, especially for Jubilee, is to sit down and say, we've borrowed 7 trillion in the last 8 years. SGR was 300 to 500 plus interest. That's 1 trillion. Can we account for the other 6 trillion? Where has it gone? If it is roads, which roads? How much did they cost? Because 6 trillion, Trevor, is actually a lot of money that we need to account for at some point in time. Yeah. The problem of debt or indebtedness that is in this country is, one, a failure to understand the socio-demographic nature of the country. We are a labor-intensive economy, yeah, and a capital deficit. When you come and you want to do capital-intensive projects, you will end up with debt and not take advantage of the labor-intensive that you have. We have a very young population, yeah, very young people and able. Yeah. Why can't we grow the economy from a labor-intensive perspective so that we build capital to now do the capital-intensive projects? And it is doable. Irrigation equipment. Why are we bought assembly plant? Because we are an agricultural economy. Combined harvesters, irrigation equipment. Because Volvo comes here, sets up an assembly plant, and you look at the statistics from Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. How many first-hand cars from the showroom do we sell in a year? That number doesn't even reach 3,000. So what is Volvo coming really to do? And you're not going to export it out, yeah, because it's expensive. So our debt is because we have driven a capital-intensive agenda, deficit economy, and ignored the labor that we have, instead of giving a labor-driven growth. Okay. Because when labor starts getting the benefits or the rent that is supposed to go to labor, a farmer and his tea pickers start getting more income. Yeah. Yeah? That farmer is going to start demanding capital goods. But now the country has money, because the guy has money. He has saved it in a bank. The government can borrow locally if they want, at cheaper rates, and deploy that capital. Okay. So we are not going to go away from debt. Even if the next guy who comes in and decides to pursue a capital-intensive project, then we'll sink further into debt. And just to mention, on whoever is going to become the next president in 2022 is going to be holding a time bomb. Because you have a debt time bomb, you have a tax time bomb, and you have an unemployment time bomb, and the fires have been stoked by political formation. Where
laptops, exam 80% and above is still an A. We still have an A. Because why don't you talk about infrastructure? The 7,000 kilometers of road. Why don't you talk about electricity connectivity? Because we have achieved in that field. Why don't you talk of other bigger projects that we have done? Universal healthcare. Why don't you talk of them? We only talk of laptops, because in any exam you will get one wrong, you will get several rights, and we have gotten several rights. We have an A in that. And Trevor, when we talk about the Jubilee administration borrowing, why don't you just say, have you borrowed this loan? Have you used this loan in the right intended purpose? And as Jubilee, we say we have borrowed, yes, but we have used this loan properly, and that Kenyans are reaping the benefit. Mm-hmm. You know, Elisha should actually be true to himself and true to the citizen of Kenya. Every road is being done. If you go to Wayaki Way now, and between Nairobi and Nakuru, there is bulldozers. Don't think those bulldozers are using urine. No, it is using fuel, and this fuel costs a lot of money. I'm telling you, the Jubilee, in the first term, we had to lay a foundation for economic growth. And the foundation of economic growth, Elisha, because you remember when I was a student in the University of Nairobi, I was against commercialization of education, introduction of parallel degree program. We wanted to reduce the number of degree holders and have technical skills. And that is why in the first foundation is that we had to have middle-level colleges so that we have technical skills, we have plumbers, we have masons, and if you have allowed us, before you brought in the handshake, Elisha, if you have allowed us, you know, the second term was now to observe all those characters that we have trained as plumbers, as masons, and so on, in our big four agenda. For instance, the affordable housing. I'm just giving that single example. Affordable housing. Affordable housing, we will have had 500,000 units per year. 500,000 units per year. Every unit will require a plumber, a mason, an electrician, a painter, and a carpenter. Those are five. 5 times 500,000. We'll have been having close to 2 million jobs that have been created for the youth that we had built. And even in our own constituency, there is activate that is training these people.
All right. I'll give you,
Let me talk strategy to you. You know, there's differentiation strategy, but there's also, when you talk about competitive advantage and strategic competitiveness, I'm not schooling you, but I just want to remind you, it does not require rocket science for any Kenyan to know that the strategy was wrong. It does not require rocket science for any Kenyan to know that you promised us stadiums. And every time, your brother said, in the next 6 months, there will be stadium in Marsabit. In the next 6 months, there will be stadium in Isiolo. In the next 6 months, there will be stadium in Mombasa. You know, Kenyans have a heritage of memory. They remember things. And I'm certain when judgment will be passed, they'll be very harsh. The only thing that I would say you have done is to continue what Kibaki started, infrastructure development. But even you are young people. I mean, the president is very young, and William Ruto is very young. Boss, this country should have seen better. These people have traveled. You've gone to Europe, you've gone to America. You know that we can do a tramp from the city center to the airport much faster. It does not require rocket science to know that there's basic things that you have done wrong. Okay. You've done, yes, well in providing health to mothers.
We have 80%.
Universal.
80%.
No. I don't know.
Still an A.
I don't know. There's no judgment. There's no predicates to make that judgment.
And Alicia, you can never educate me. You can never school me.
No. Guys, I have to take a quick break.
It should be the other way around. Me schooling you.
As
a student of strategy, you can only infer from what you see.
Okay.
You know, inferential statistics, there's something called coefficient of correlation, where you have 2 variables and you look at one. You can only look at what you have achieved vis-a-vis the thinking of Kenyans.
Okay.
And if you talk about coefficient of determination, I'm not schooling you, but just remind you that game people are the brightest.
You know, a lot of English.
The guys have to take a break now. When we come back, let's talk about the kicker bill. And I see a lot of your feedback also will be putting all that up in just a bit.